Very well. How about yourself?
Good, thanks. Always a pleasure to see you in the studio, as well as to see you outside the studio. Today we get the opportunity to talk about some exciting things going on in Washington. We seem to be talking about one crisis or another every time we get together.
Well, actually, nothing is going on in Washington, which is the big problem.
That's nothing really new, is it?
Well, unfortunately, that is the status quo at this point.
So I think the last time we had an opportunity to talk, we talked about that looming fiscal cliff. Now we've moved on to the March 1st deadline and sequestration. So you want to give our listeners your perspective and an update on what's going on down there?
Well, I will try.
I know you'll do a fabulous job.
Have you ever seen the show The Producers in your younger days?
I have not, but
Okay.
I know the story.
The story is great. Let's create a play that is so bad it will bomb. Well, the play did not bomb.
It was a big hit.
That's what Congress did with sequestration. They wanted to come up with an idea that was so outrageous, so uncontrollable, so that Congress would never let sequestration come into effect.
And yet,
Because it was so arbitrary. Yet, we now have sequestration.
so I guess the short answer is that poison pill, don't put it in place unless you're ready to take it.
Absolutely. There's a lesson to be learned there. And unfortunately, I don't see this being resolved anytime soon. Let's quickly talk about Congress. I mean, Congress, what you need is somebody that will vote to make a change in the status quo. Take away the entitlements. The problem with that is that most congressmen like to run for re-election. And if they do change and reduce entitlements, chances are they're going to lose.
Yep.
There's only one person that I know in Washington who's not running for re-election, the president. I think this is Obama's time. Either he will lead this country and come up with a policy that will not be popular, but in the long run will save us from financial ruin, or we're going to just fall victim to sequestration. Now, short term, people may hate Obama for doing that, but long term, people will really respect what he did. But he really has to lead.
Time to step up.
It's time to step up to the plate because he's really the only one who can do that at this point.
So help boil it down for our listeners and for entrepreneurs. We're hearing all types of tidbits in terms of the impact on cities and towns and individuals and corporations. What's sort of, from a high level, some of the concerns that are going on here?
The primary concern, I think, is just the layoffs for the independent contractors of the defense industry and also furloughs for government employees, for instance, TSA people. These people will potentially have to take unpaid leaves in order to make this budget work. Now, hopefully, Congress will come to some sort of resolution with the president over the next month or so, because we are going to be running out. We're going to hit the debt ceiling again very shortly, I believe in May. So that will be the second major crisis. So I would hope between now and May, Congress will do something to resolve this problem. As you know, the Republicans just want to do spending cuts. The Democrats want to combine a program with spending cuts with quote-unquote taking away tax loopholes. Well, let's talk about tax loopholes, okay, because tax loophole is it's not really a bad thing, depending on what we're talking about. Let's specifically talk about LIFO, last in, first out, which is the form of inventory calculations that most auto dealerships use. That allows them to have a higher cost of goods sold, which means they have a lower profit. Great idea. What Obama is talking about doing, having not thought this through, obviously his people, is to eliminate LIFO across the board. So the difference between last in, first out and first in, first out will roll into income over an 8-year period. The problem with this is there's no additional cash to pay the tax. So let me give you an example. Let's say we have an auto dealership that has an $8 million LIFO reserve. That's the difference between LIFO and FIFO since LIFO was adopted. What this would mean...
So are they essentially going against that? Their inventory is going against that $8 million reserve every year?
Correct.
Okay.
It's increasing. So basically, this auto dealership will have to take in $1 million additional income a year, pay additional tax of $340,000 a year, and they're not getting any cash for this.
Right.
This is a problem. What this was meant was for a lot of oil and gas companies use this, which helps defer, shall we say, recognition of income.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now if they wanted to do that for the oil and gas companies, no one has a problem. Basically, you're going to put out of business a lot of your car dealerships and a lot of your distributors because of that.
You know, it's interesting, and